The biggest soccer tournament in history starts tomorrow. Tomorrow. 104 matches, 48 countries, 3 host nations, and somewhere between 3 and 4 billion people watching on screens around the world. That is not hyperbole. That is the official projection. And you know what else is happening tomorrow? South Africa's team doctor is still waiting for a visa. Let me say that again slowly. South Africa plays the opening match of the 2026 FIFA World Cup in less than 24 hours against Mexico. And right now, as of this recording, the team doctor cannot confirm he is on a plane. That is not a rumor. That is not a political talking point. That is a quote from South Africa's own sports minister, who posted it publicly on social media last week after the team's charter flight out of Johannesburg sat on the tarmac, unable to leave, because 20 members of the traveling group were still waiting for their US visas to be processed. The minister's exact words were, "We are being made to look like fools." Now, I want you to sit with that image for a second. The opening match, the team doctor, still grounded. That is where we are. My name is James Williams. I decode the real-world impact of global politics on your wallet and on your daily life. And what I am about to show you is not just a sports story. It is a signal about money, about how the world is starting to see America, and about what that shift costs, not for some abstract government budget, but for regular people in cities like Dallas, Miami, Kansas City, and Los Angeles who are counting on this summer to matter. Stay with me. Let's go back. June 13th, 2018, Zurich, Switzerland. FIFA's executive committee votes to award the 2026 World Cup to the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And honestly, the excitement made complete sense. America had the stadiums. 11 cities, from Boston to Los Angeles, Miami to Seattle. Infrastructure that most countries can only dream about. An established tourism industry. Airports that handle more traffic in a week than some nations handle in a year. The economic projections were extraordinary. Up to $30 billion in economic activity just for the American portion of the tournament. Hotel chains started planning immediately. Cities competed hard to be named host venues. Airlines began adjusting international routes years in advance. The pitch was simple. America is ready. America is open. The world is welcome. That was a different moment. That was before a freeze on visa applications from 75 countries, before travel advisories from allied governments, before the team doctor who still might not make the flight. What happened between 2018 and right now is what this video is about. And it is also, if you are willing to look at it honestly, a lesson about what happens when the economics of a global invitation collide with a political environment that was never designed with that invitation in mind. If you are new here, subscribe now. I cover the mechanisms that mainstream news glosses over. No noise, no ideology, just the numbers and the real-world consequences that affect what is in your wallet. And the story I am about to walk you through is one of the most important economic stories of this year, even if you do not watch a single match. I want to walk through 3 specific receipts, not opinions, receipts, because this is not a feeling, this is data. Receipt 1, the hotels. The American Hotel and Lodging Association ran a survey of hotel operators across all 11 U.S. host cities: New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, Miami, Kansas City, Seattle, Atlanta, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Houston, Boston. The results came back in early May. 80% of hotel operators reported that bookings were tracking below their initial forecasts. 80%. Not 50, not 60, 80. And here is the part that really caught my attention. In cities like Kansas City, bookings are reportedly running below what a typical June or July would bring in a normal year. A year with no World Cup, no tournament, nothing special at all, just a regular summer. You added the biggest sporting event in history to your calendar, and you are drawing fewer visitors than a standard Tuesday in June. Now, I want to be fair here. Some of that is prices. Tickets to certain matches were being listed at over $1,000 on the secondary market. Hotel rooms near stadiums were marked up 300% in some cities. Even President Trump said publicly he would not pay the asking price for a ticket to the U.S. men's opening match. So yes, prices are part of the story. But here is what should stop you cold. The dollar is down 12% against the euro compared to last year. That means America is actually cheaper for European visitors right now than it was in 2025. The currency argument, which is usually the strongest economic argument for staying home, is actually working in America's favor this summer. If the hesitation were purely about cost, those numbers should be helping. They are not. Flight data confirms it too. Bookings from Europe to US host cities for this June are running roughly 5% below projections. Bookings from Asia are down nearly 4%. Those are not massive numbers on their own, but remember, this is not a normal June. This is a World Cup June. These numbers should be up sharply. The fact that they are flat to down is the story. About 65% of hotel operators who responded to that survey directly cited visa barriers and broader concerns about the political environment as the reasons people were not booking. 65% did not say it was the prices. 65% said it was the atmosphere. The market is speaking, and the market does not lie. Receipt 2. The people who were actually turned away. This is the part of the story that moved fastest and got covered least carefully. Last week, a Somali referee named Omar Abdulkadir Artan landed in Miami. He was set to become the first ever Somali official at a FIFA World Cup. He had been named the best male referee in Africa in 2025. He was denied entry. FIFA had previously said his visa issues were resolved. They were not. He flew home to Istanbul. He will not officiate a single match. At the same time, at least one staff member traveling with the Iraqi team was turned away at a U.S. airport. Dozens of fans from Morocco, people who bought tickets, who planned trips, who asked for time off from their jobs, were denied travel visas, despite having tickets in hand. And then there is Iran. Iran qualified for this World Cup. They were supposed to attend the official draw ceremony back in December in Washington. The U.S. denied visas to several top officials of the Iranian Soccer Federation, including their federation president. Iran boycotted the draw. Now, I understand there are complex foreign policy reasons behind some of these specific cases. I am not pretending this is a simple picture. But here is what I want you to understand about the signal this sends. When the draw ceremony, before the tournament even has a schedule, is being boycotted because team officials cannot get into the country, you have already told the world something about how this is going to go. And the world listened. Receipt 3. The warnings from allied governments. This one is the one I think most Americans have not fully processed. Germany issued a formal travel advisory ahead of this World Cup. It warned German citizens that demonstrations in the United States sometimes lead to violent clashes with immigration and security authorities. It urged travelers to be aware and stay away from crowds where that might happen. Ireland updated its travel guidance for the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, citing tensions following recent immigration enforcement activities there. The British Foreign Office urged fans to verify their ESTA travel authorizations before leaving home, after reports that previously approved ESTAs had quietly reverted without notification. Over 120 civil society organizations in the U.S., including the ACLU, issued formal warnings to international visitors about the risks of coming here. These are not hostile governments. These are allies. These are countries whose citizens were planning to spend money in American cities this summer. And their governments looked at the environment and said, just be careful. Now, former FIFA president Sepp Blatter, who is not exactly known for mincing words, went further than that. He told European media, through an anti-corruption law professor, to simply, quote, stay away from the USA. That quote traveled widely. Here is where I think the story gets misread. Most of the coverage has framed this as a political controversy, a left versus right thing, a pro-immigration versus pro-security debate. That is not the right frame for understanding the economic consequences. The right frame is this. International travel is a confidence business. Think about how a family actually makes this decision. They sit around a kitchen table somewhere in Germany or Brazil or Japan. They look at the schedule. They look at the prices. They check the news. And then, before they open a single booking website, they ask one question. Is this safe? Is this predictable? Do I know what I am walking into? If the answer is yes, the trip gets planned. If the answer is, I'm not sure, the trip gets deferred. And deferred, in travel, usually means canceled. Certainty is the product international tourism sells. Ambiguity is its most effective killer. And what the environment around this World Cup generated was sustained, compounding ambiguity. Not one clear bad signal, many small signals, over many months, from many directions simultaneously. A visa freeze that affected applications from 75 countries. A congressional hearing that turned into a shouting match over whether federal immigration enforcement would be present at stadium venues. A local sheriff who confirmed he had been given assurances that civil enforcement would not happen at matches, but then immediately acknowledged those assurances could change depending on circumstances. That last caveat, circumstances could change, is a sentence that means nothing to a domestic audience. It is background noise. But to a family in Morocco deciding whether to spend $5,000 to fly to America and watch their team play, that sentence is the whole decision. Because once you read that line, you start building the backup plan. And once the backup plan exists, it competes with the original trip. Every day, until someone cancels. I want to bring this home, because this is where I think the story matters most to the people watching this channel. The $30 billion projection for this World Cup was not a PR number. It was built on specific assumptions: hotel occupancy, restaurant traffic, retail spending, transportation, short-term rentals. It was the foundation on which cities justified infrastructure investments, on which airlines scheduled routes, on which small business owners took on inventory. When 80% of hotels across 11 cities report bookings below forecast, those are not just missed lines on a spreadsheet. Those are real people who were hired and may now see their hours cut. Real small business owners who front-loaded supplies based on foot traffic projections that are not going to materialize. And here is the part that most analysts are not being direct enough about. Structural shifts in travel behavior do not reverse quickly. Once a travel company restructures its group tour package around a different destination, it does not just rebuild the original itinerary because the political climate improves. Once a fan association decides the legal uncertainty around a tournament is too high for an organized group trip, that calculus does not disappear because someone issues a clarifying statement. Once the backup plan becomes the default plan, the original destination loses its automatic advantage. That is the compounding damage, and it is not contained to this summer. FIFA will model this when future bids are evaluated. Other international organizations planning major conferences, summits, and global events will look at this summer as a data point. The question they will ask is not, was the World Cup technically successful? The question they will ask is, was it predictable? Predictability is the thing, and right now, it is the thing in question. Let me give you 3 realistic scenarios. Not optimism, not doom, just clear-eyed reads on where this could land. Scenario 1, the stumble that stabilizes. Local officials, courts, and behind-the-scenes diplomacy keep incidents isolated. The matches happen, the stadiums fill, largely because of domestic fans. The international shortfall is real, but not catastrophic. The tournament finishes, the economic damage is measurable, but survivable. And the lesson gets written quietly into every future FIFA risk model. The United States is now a more complicated host than it used to be. That lesson does not leave. It shapes bids for years. Scenario 2, the slow drift. What happened to the Somali referee, to the Moroccan fans with valid tickets, to South Africa's staff doctor? These individual moments become reference points. Organizations planning future global events pull them up in meetings, not to make a statement, just to do their jobs. And over time, in hundreds of small decisions made in offices in London, Zurich, Tokyo, and Sao Paulo, America loses the automatic first-choice status it has held for decades. That is not a boycott. That is gravity shifting. And gravity, once it shifts, takes a long time to shift back. Scenario 3, the flashpoint. This is the one that officials are privately preparing for and publicly refusing to name. A high-profile incident at a venue, a team or delegation treated in a way that becomes a global news story, a sponsor pulling out publicly.
The kind of moment that converts a troubled tournament into something that damages American credibility on the world stage in a lasting, measurable way.
I am not predicting that. I am telling you the gap exists. The ambiguity that the LA County Sheriff acknowledged, that circumstances could change, is precisely the space through which something like that enters. Nobody wants it to go there, but it is worth knowing the door is open. Here is where I land on this. The 2026 World Cup will never be the tournament it was promised to be in 2018. Even if the football is extraordinary, even if the stadiums fill and the moments are real and the final in New Jersey is everything it could be, the story that preceded this tournament has already been written. The grounded charter out of Johannesburg, the referee who flew home from Miami, the fans from Morocco who got a rejection instead of a boarding pass, the government advisories from allied nations, the congressional hearing that turned into a shouting match. Those things happened, they are in the record, and they travel with the tournament now, all the way to the final whistle.
I want to ask you something before I close. Did this environment damage the World Cup? Or did it reveal a pressure chamber that was already building? Is the gap between the tournament we were promised and the one starting tomorrow a failure of preparation? Or a signal about something shifting in how the world calculates the risk of choosing America? And is this summer the beginning of that recalculation, or the middle of one that started years ago and is only now becoming visible? I do not have a clean answer to that. I am not sure anyone does yet. What I do know is this: once a country teaches the world that entry is uncertain, the world does not forget quickly. It builds backup plans. It finds alternative routes, and it holds on to that knowledge long after the politics that created it have moved on. The matches start tomorrow. The story underneath them is already running. If this gave you a frame you did not have before, share it. Not for me. Share it because the people around you deserve a clear read on what is actually happening here. Subscribe if you are not already here. My name is James Williams. This channel exists for people who want to understand the mechanism underneath the headline, the economics, the geopolitics, the real-world impact on your life and your wallet. That is what we do here, every video. The tournament is just beginning. So is the fallout. Do not look away. Independent political and economic analysis for educational purposes only, not financial, legal, or investment advice.